Welcome to Helpful Humans, the podcast about people who are creating good in our world by helping and empowering others. I'm Kim Drobes, and I'm honored to share these stories with you. They get to the heart of who we are as human beings while exploring our inherent desire to make a difference.
Nobody was talking. They were all just staring ahead. It was the most surreal thing. And all of a sudden he said, I think he kind of felt that too, and he said, so guys, $70,000 minimum wage? And at that point, some people started clapping, and then more people started clapping. People got up and started doing a standing ovation, then hollering and high-fiving, and then pretty soon the tears came.
That's Ryan Perkle. He heads up the marketing team at Gravity Payments, and he's talking about when his boss, CEO Dan Price, announced that he'd be setting a $70,000 minimum wage for all of his employees. Gravity Payments is a credit card payment processing company based out of Seattle, Washington. They serve thousands of merchants across America, and they pride themselves in sticking up for the little guy and working to save small businesses money. When Dan made that $70,000 minimum wage announcement back in April of 2015, it made international headlines. And following those headlines came some more headlines. This time about income inequality, capitalism, and the possible politics of Dan Price. But CEO Dan Price isn't the only star of today's Empowerment Zone. Instead, I want to share the story of the employees of Gravity Payments and what happened next, how loyalty was bred, babies were born, and joyful tears were reciprocated.
And I was like, he's done so much for me. I want to do something that's going to make him have the same reaction that I had when he did that to me. Except I had a goal of making him cry. That was my goal. My name's Alyssa O'Neill, and I work in support at Gravity. I was only working there a little over a year, 1 month over a year. That day, I wondered why we had a mandatory meeting. We get in there, everything's normal. Dan had this overwhelming smile, and it kind of freaked me out. Couldn't tell what he was up to, what he was doing. And he blurted it out, and first I heard the number, and I was like, no, that's not true. And then sat there in silence after he said it. Had this weird, almost urge to just burst out in laughter, and then was like, wow, and then everybody started standing up, and I'm like, wow, this is real.
Everybody was slack-jawed. Nobody said anything for a good 5 seconds, which is actually a long time to be silent in a room full of people. My name is Jose J. Garcia, and I am the deployment supervisor.
Both Jose and Alyssa's lives were incredibly affected by Dan's $70,000 minimum wage announcement. They had both been making around $33,000 a year, and they had both been struggling to get by living in such an expensive city like Seattle. Alyssa and her young son couldn't even afford to live very close to the city. They had been living about 45 miles away. Her commute to work had been around 2 hours twice a day.
We're now renting a bigger, better, and closer house. I'm now about only 22 miles away from work, where, I was at 45. It's been a dramatic change for me. The schools closest to my house down south where I was living weren't the best, and too, with the neighborhood, that wasn't the greatest either. I can look away when I'm pumping my gas, and I know that's because my company has made it so I have no stress financially.
So I don't have to worry about getting a flat tire or my car breaking down or running out of toilet paper, or whatever it happens to be. Whatever it is, I don't have to worry about it anymore because I know that the funds are there to cover that problem if it arises. It's been more of an ease of mind, and that ease of mind just translates into less worrying, which lets me focus on my job and do my job the best I can.
And that ease of mind, that was the exact seed behind the $70,000 minimum wage. Ryan Perkle worked with Dan while the idea behind the minimum wage started to form.
It's about reducing distractions. It's about reducing anxieties. It's about reducing noise, clutter, distortion, whatever you want to call it. It's all these things that distract us from doing our work, the reason that we're here, our mission to support small business owners. And, instead of people having anxiety around Am I going to be able to make that rent payment, my car payment, my student loans? Oh my gosh, I'm underwater on these credit cards. Maybe I have to take a side gig. Anything like that. That's all anxiety. It's all distraction. It's things that take you away from focusing on what's really important, and that's developing, yourself and being successful for yourself, and then also being successful, for our clients, helping them be successful. The rest of the stuff is just clutter. It's noise, and so by reducing that distraction, we're able to get a win-win. Everybody's able to succeed.
Aside from Ryan, there were a select few others that worked with Dan as his $70,000 idea grew into a reality. Emery Wager is a project manager with Gravity, and he knew it was something that had been on Dan's mind for a while.
It was something that I watched, come to Dan over a long period of time. He told me several times in the past that he really felt like $70,000 was the number that people really needed to make in Seattle to be, to live a decent life. I think it really it comes down to the people, and a lot of people who don't know the company very well have looked inside at Gravity and said, well, those people that got those raises, those are just charity cases. When in fact that's really not the case at all. People at Gravity work very, very hard. They work long hours. They make huge sacrifices for clients, and they pull their weight far in excess of $70K. So really, it was basically just a move to say thank you, and I know you're worth even more than this, but at least we're going to do something and get you up to $70K.
Neither Emery or Ryan were affected by the new minimum wage, meaning they were both making more than $70,000 to begin with. But for employees like Jose and Alyssa, their new salaries seems to be just the icing on a job that they both already loved, and a CEO that they both already cared about immensely.
I don't want to say it's altruistic, but he's definitely taking care of the people that make his business run our business, really, because he makes us feel like we work with him, not for him. It's been 2.5 years that I've worked here, and not a single day have I woken up and thought, I don't want to go into work today. I've not slept enough and thought, I'm really tired, I don't want to go into work, but I've never not wanted to come into work because of the job. I want to be here. When the company is like, hey, can you go out and do this? That's why I came in on Saturday, and that's, nobody asked me, but it's the right thing to do.
I mean, it's crazy. I never thought that I could come and just be happy while also making money. And it's been great. There's been times where I've had a difficult situation come up, and instead of being reprimanded, either deserved or not, it was an educational point for them and for me, which I find is just incredible.
Although at first he was a little skeptical of Dan's decision, Emery sees clearly now how living without financial burdens can change employees' lives in countless ways.
But just all these amazing things happening when people feel like when money is, they're not rich, but money is just not necessarily something they have to think about all the time. And that distraction can, I didn't really understand what kind of distraction that was beforehand. And afterwards, it's been really interesting to see what's happened after those distractions have been removed.
One thing that seems to be happening, employees are starting families.
We have, I think, 11 newborn babies this year, where typically we usually have 1 or 2.
There's been way too many babies. Actually, 2 of my teammates here just had a baby a day apart.
Indeed, a lot of babies, and also a lot of gratitude going around Gravity these days. Here's Ryan Perkle again.
Our whole team is so, appreciative of, half of our staff, had, a substantial increase in income overnight. But he took this big risk, and he did it for everybody. And, the sacrifice he made was not only, a financial sacrifice, but also his personal time. And then once he started to make headlines, it was also his personal life. So he was sacrificing all of this so that his team could afford a living wage. That was something pretty incredible. So there's a lot of people that wanted to do something for him, that felt, they wanted to do something as a token of gratitude. People trying to think through ideas, and my idea was, well, let's send him somewhere where he can actually take a break from work. Let's send him, like, I want to send him up on one of those SpaceX rockets. We'll buy him a seat so he can go up into, orbit, and he won't be on a cell phone, or he can climb Everest or something crazy. And those were all really cool experiences, but we knew that he didn't want a break from work.
I thought for a while there, like, well, what would he like? What could the man that can buy himself anything like or can get from us? So I started stalking his social media. He posts a lot about Tesla, and I was like, that's it, and that's all that it's going to be.
Emery was immediately on board for the Tesla idea.
We knew very clearly that it was his dream car. We also knew very clearly that he would probably never get it for himself. So he was driving a 12-year-old Audi that he had gotten in a trade with a dealership, and I personally drove it a few times, and you had to let the clutch out about a foot just to get it to move forward, and it was on its last legs, and he just insisted on keeping it. And so we were like, this is too good of an opportunity to try to get him, the thing that he would never buy for himself. Everybody, there was, no mandatory contributions. Everybody contributed if they wanted to, if they could, but it's amazing what you can do when you get, 150 people together.
And so everybody decided to, pitch in and do this one thing because it was a good way to just kind of give back a little bit in a very tangible way. Because I think, while money is tangible, Dan has given to us in a way that's not tangible. Like I said, you can't put a price tag on ease of mind, but apparently it's around $70,000. So
They came up with creative ways to finance the Tesla. Some employees made one-time donations, while other employees opted for payroll deductions.
Some people are $2 a pay period, some people $25, just depending on their situation. And the people that didn't feel comfortable financially doing that, they found other ways to help out. One person created this beautiful photo album for him, and took pictures of every single employee, and then like a message about how they, how Dan touched their life. And so I almost think that he appreciates that book more than the car. But we decided, well, we have to surprise Dan. Let's flip the script on this guy. And so another quarterly meeting, a year and change after his 70K announcement, we had the car all set up out in the parking lot with a big green bow like you see in those bad Lexus commercials in the Christmas time. And we had it parked out there, and we went through this meeting, and at the very end, closing remarks, and Alyssa said, Dan, we have a present for you. What you've done has meant so much for us. And so I have two gifts for you. The first is this book, and she handed the book to him, and then a few of our employees got up and read their excerpts and, gave a hug. And then Alyssa said, I have one more thing for you. Will you follow me outside? And Dan had this look on his face like, well, we're in the middle of a meeting. Like, I could kind of see it. Like, and he said, sure, right now? And she said, yeah, come on. Everybody can come on. And so, Dan was like, what is it? You just see his face. And he's like, okay, and follows Alyssa outside of our building, and then he sees the car. And at that moment, it was such every single one of us, like, will never forget his face, because he didn't scream. It wasn't excitement. It was, but it wasn't like elation. It was more like he was so touched, and he just broke into tears. He started crying right there when he saw it.
Yeah, so, we walk out, and all he could do, you could see him kind of crumble a little, he got a little emotional. As we were walking out, he saw the front of the car, and just instantly started crying. He just came up and hugged us all. I gave him the key. He turned around, and he was like, I don't even want to see the car. I just want to see you guys, and he just hugged the whole crowd. It was a pretty cool moment. But before we gave him the car, I had went outside and done a little interview for our Gravity people here, wanted to ask a few questions. And so I stood in front of it, and then I noticed one of his best friends from elementary school and one of our sales reps from Idaho were there. And they were just standing around, and I was like, hey, you guys aren't going to go inside? And they're like, no, we'll just stay out here. I was like, what if you guys hid in the trunk? So we opened the back. The trunk is huge. And so Garrett wanted to be Big Spoon, so he got in first. Brad hopped in, and And then, I shut the thing, went inside for the meeting. It was about another 10 minutes before I went back out there. And when me and Dan got out there, after he hugged everybody, he was staring at the car, and I was looking around. I'm like, uh-oh, I think they're still in the trunk. And so I was like, Dan, open the trunk. And he's like, why? So he went over there, and they jump out, and they're sweating. And they jumped on Dan, they hugged him, and Dan just loved it. It was great.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
No.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. What? How did you guys do this? It's clear that Gravity employees have a unique passion for their company and their teammates, and Ryan believes the best is yet to come.
I got to tell you, like, working at this company, there's so many things that happen, and it's so different than anywhere I've worked before. Just the fact that, like, all these amazing things are happening, all these incredible stories, and I mean, there are so many more that we're not even getting into. These are just kind of the major stories that people know about, but it's just an incredible place to be. It's a hard place to be. It's challenging. It's a lot of work. We work really hard and with a purpose. There's no really days you can just kind of phone it in, like everybody has in jobs where, you're not applying themselves 100%. But man, is it fulfilling.
This story was originally recorded a few years ago, but Dan Price and Gravity Payments are in the news again. In the wake of the pandemic, Gravity Payments saw their revenue drop about 55%. But instead of laying people off, Price asked for voluntary pay cuts from his employees. And check this out. Nearly every single one of his 185 employees agreed. And as a result, no one was laid off. Now, Gravity Payments revenue has bounced back, not completely, but a lot. And as of July, their full salaries have been restored, and the company was able to pay them back what they had lost from their pay cuts. Theme music for Helpful Humans is provided by the amazingly talented K. Michelle Dubois. Check out Michelle's latest offerings at her website, kmichelledubois.com, or search for her on Spotify. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you happen to listen to your podcasts. I would very much appreciate it. Thanks for listening.